Hello everyone. Yes, Neil, I am a Fruit Loop, completely mad, but not isolated. I think something I need to explain about the last few days is that there's a lot of you probably just going, what the fuck is this all about? Well, it's about a few things really. It's what you call a multi-pronged attack. Dilys Garrow taught me about this. I always sort of think when you've got a problem to solve, you should have 3 solutions to every problem. You know, and because of my energies, keeping them afloat, I like to kill a few birds with one stone, I suppose. So this whole presentation is serving obviously as my coming out as a psychic, which, you know, I had to do very publicly because despite the advice of many other psychics to, you know, keep it to myself and only keep it amongst circles of trust of other people that were really spiritual in that manner, I found myself being judged for it. So I really had no other choice because, you know, if I didn't really understand it. I mean, when it happened, it was literally overnight. It was an overnight thing, and I knew I wasn't going mad because the first experience I had was a very physical one. And it does get you talking to yourself, you know, you're like, what, am I going mad? Am I going mad? But I definitely wasn't going mad. First experience was at my friend Josie's house. Her dad John comes through to me quite a lot. Now I understand a lot that through intuitions ever since I got the gift. And the reason I'm telling you this is that there are 12 Life Path members, and it's all on www.tokenrock.com. There are also 12 apostles. It's really interesting given that all of this stuff dates back to Pythagoras and very much before the age of religion. So I believe that ancestry has got a lot to do with it. It's like filters, isn't it? Things get filtered up and fables, they change. So I think, you know, we take things forward. So I do think it's significant that there are some parallels, you know, well, there's a lot of parallels. I mean, I really have taken to reading all religious books, but I do filter out, especially a lot about the stuff about women, because that's what I really liked about the Druids, you know, before religion, was how they respected the woman more, I think. Sorry, I'm just going to have a bit of this. This is nourishment, keeps me going because when I get a lot of nervous energy, I do struggle to have an appetite, but I have this nourishment stuff, and I've just popped a little bit of vodka in it actually. Feel like a bit of a drinky, and why the fuck not? That's what I say. Cheers, everything in moderation, and a fag. Thanks to Lucky, by the way, at the corner shop. I said to him, I said, a name like that is a fucking, fishing blessing and a curse, isn't it? I mean, God, with a name like Lucky, when you're down on your luck, oh my God, oh, that is amusing. Nice bloke though. As is Luke Skywalker, because I make the point, right, just because I have no money, and I don't, because I've had bailiffs on my door since all this started, I don't have to look like I've got no money. Fake it till you make it. And anyway, I buy everything from charity shops, but you can't buy style, can you? Money can't buy style. I think I'm a really good example of that. Anyway, where was I? Gone off the point somewhat. Yeah, 12 Life Path numbers. So, if you check yours and you're a 7, it's prophesied that by the time you reach the age of 40, if you have unblocked childhood trauma, one really good way to start on that journey is to read a book called Alice Walker, The Drama of the Gifted Child. And what happened to her is very similar to what's happened to me. She'd been trained in psychotherapy, and when she rejected all of her training, she suddenly became very in touch with her subconscious and just went with the flow of the universe kind of thing, and had an epiphany, pretty much like I have, really. And so, do you know, I was never meant to smoke rollies. I actually do talk too much for this shit. Anyway, the point is this: it's a lot to do with mind control, right? So I have never really ever done things for the money. I think if you're going to spend however many hours at work, you've got to love what you do. So that's why I spent 12 years in community work, supporting others with the training that was passed down to me from whomever. And that's the problem, is let's really look at the situation. Who provides the training for the social workers, right? Who decides what's right and wrong? So, right, you know, if we want to get into that line of work, unless we're given an opportunity to really discover what it is that we're passionate about from the heart. So how do we, it's like why homeschooling I think is so important, because, you know, education is the lighting of a fire, not the filling of a pail. And I think really to understand what others are going through, you have to have walked a mile in their shoes. And that's kind of what's happened to me, really. I had both the perspective of being someone on the other side of the fence and someone who'd walked and tread the path. So I've worked with kids in care, I've worked in parenting assessment, when I was working with kids in care, I did artwork with them. Gosh, there's been quite a lot. I've worked in mental health units. I mean, it's a very varied career that I've had, 12 years, and then to suddenly find myself in this situation with the finger pointing of the services, it was a bloody eye-opener. I mean, more than an eye-opener, it was like, kaboom, kaboom. Big light bulb moment. What the fuck? What the fuck is this shit all about, really? You know, and that is why, and that combined with the fact that I actually been in therapy for 18 months, that I actually paid for myself £3,000, the best investment I ever made, and I cannot recommend Cedar, and again, Cedar Counselling, very important, because they're funded by, they're not funded by the government, and so my work, I mean, when I got the psychic gift, I was giving it away for free, and that's a very bad thing, because imagine having a wand with no fucking, fishing instruction manual. That's what happened to me. Now, I've worked out in my own way through having lots of mistakes that free will comes into it, but you have to invite people, you know, say, do you want this information? Because they will shoot the messenger. You get persecuted for it. And that's not fair, really, not fair. But I've had to learn without a mentor, really, except I did have somebody that I approached, Adrian at Mirrorstone Crystals, who's been a massive support to me. And his advice has been, I don't take all the advice. He told me I should stop drinking because it's sort of like in life, it widens up your boundaries and, you know, you become too much of an open vessel. But I don't want to stop drinking, and I sort of just think, oh, I don't know, anyway, maybe, oh no, I don't want to stop drinking, you know, but I do have to do it in moderation. I have to be very careful, because it becomes very odd, you know, you can be on the bus and messages just come through and you touch someone's hand, and I've cried for people just from touching their hands. It becomes very overwhelming, you know, to have your own emotional pain and then to feel that of others, but it's both a blessing and a curse, really, because all I've ever really wanted was to make things better, I suppose. And having had readings myself in the past, I understand the power of the gift of knowing that you know the people that you miss are actually still around you. So it's more of a, well, I'll say more. It's not a curse. It is a blessing, but it did need taming, you know, because this is why a lot of psychics end up in psychosis, because Adrian at Mirrorstone Crystals did spend 3 years in psychosis, and I said when I was in the Hadley unit, I did see 7 scratched in, met another 7. So do check your life path number. If you're a 7, you need guidance, and it's all on the Celestine Prophecy, and I'd be more than willing to help because I've been through the mill with it, really. But, you know, as prophesied, this is a very special generation. It's all in the Celestine Prophecy, the 9 insights. So there's a very good chance if you're an Emma and you're a 7, you're psychic. And if you're not, you know, and the other thing is people have different words for it, you know. I know another 7. You know who you are, Mr. Winkler. You know, who would totally reject all of the mysticism and just call it common sense. Well, it's way more than common sense because he's seen into my future. And what you find is that when you get a number of psychics in the room, what happens is it's like I've got when I shave my head, I've got a tufty bit on the back of my head. I can't shave. And it's a bit like the driving, you know, you've got the wing mirror, that little bit of a blind spot. And we all have them. Mine's men. As my friend Emma Young says, I just don't know what's good for me. Just don't know when to give up, because the problem is I see the potential of someone if they could just unblock themselves, and then they perceive that as me trying to change them and become resistant. So that's something I have to learn a lot about. It's very frustrating. Sorry, why is that gone?